Okay, thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here. Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming out to support this really incredible film. And it's my great honor to be joined by the film's director and the film's producer. So I want to introduce Fiona Roan, the film director. This is her first feature film. Fiona is a graduate of AFI right here in Los Angeles. She made a short film entitled Jijie, which won a lot of awards from HBO and elsewhere, and a lot of accolades, which put her on the road to this incredible feature film, American Girl, which we just enjoyed. And her partner in this film, the producer, Clifford, he is a graduate of NYU. He, I believe, has something like more than 17 short films on his credentials in terms of production. And is this your first feature?
As a producer.
As a producer, yes. And so we're honored to have both the director and the producer. I'm going to start with a couple questions to get our conversation going, and then we're going to open it up to all of you and try to get your feedback. I know earlier Fiona mentioned she's particularly eager to hear what your responses to this incredible film, so we hope to have you share some of your thoughts and reflections in a moment. But maybe we can start by having you both talk a little bit about the road to American Girl. How did the project develop from both the producer's perspective and the director's perspective, and kind of take us through the process of what led you to this amazing project.
Hi. First of all, so happy to be back here in LA, to see so many familiar faces and new friends. So I started American Girl in 2019, and I spent the whole year writing the script. And then it's adapted from my family story. So when I did that for my thesis film at AFI already, and so when it came to my first feature film, I thought what was the most important story for me to tell if I only had one chance. So I thought about extending my family story back to 2003 when I first went back to Taipei as a girl.
From my end, well, I first heard about the beginning of the story when Fiona kind of took me over to pudding or something, and then we were just talking about the idea of extending the short film into feature length, and she was telling me about what happened in her life after she came back from America, which I thought was quite interesting because in Taiwan we call this kind of like a 回流. It's kind of, you go to the States but you come back again. It's not as rare as people think, but it is definitely like a particular type. And so after that, basically we started to, I think it's really kind of interestingly during COVID that, because at first people didn't really remember SARS, and then COVID happened, and then we were able to kind of find money and actors, and a lot of that stuff just started to happen pretty quickly. So we basically just went for a pretty short pre-production, and then we shot the film in 28 days during the heart of COVID. Wow. And we did most of our post-production just during lockdown. So our editor was, well, here in LA, a lot of our post-production team were in America, and we just kind of edited the whole movie during quarantine, and then there it is.
Yeah, can I give a shout out to our production designer, Yuxuan. On the big screen, and so we're really excited and happy to have this chance. Yeah.
Yeah, our two associate producers, Annie Ying and then Hensung, are here today as well. So it's lovely to be here. Being here in the States, watching it's a whole different feeling.
So I wanted to follow up on what you were just talking about in terms of the challenges of shooting during COVID, especially a film that's set during the SARS outbreak of 2003, so a very similar kind of sentiment that people are going through, that you're portraying on film and that you're actually going through in real life as this film is being shot. And so from both of your perspectives, and for Clifford from a production standpoint, I imagine there must have been a lot of headaches in terms of logistics, with face masks, with testing, with getting access to locations, especially there's shots here in an airport. You could talk about the challenges of shooting a film about SARS during the height of COVID, and Fiona, same. Not only the technical challenges, but also the emotional challenges of working with actors when they're going through a similar terror and uncertainty in their everyday lives as what they're portraying in the film.
From a production standpoint, yeah, it's tough because we had international ambitions in the sense that we didn't want to really have a more traditional Taiwanese crew. So many of our crew members, like our cinematographer is from Greece. He's only been to Asia the second time shooting. And Karena Lam is from Hong Kong. And we had so many members that we were flying during COVID and just getting their visa, like putting them in a quarantine hotel, that was quite tough in itself. Of course, there's the COVID test and everything. But I think it's just, we needed to calculate everything to a T. Like everything needed to have plan A, B, C, D. Like if suddenly a person is coming out of quarantine 2 days late, that would have changed the entire game. And I think it's just trying to be ahead of the schedule all the time.
Well, for me, it's the major difference is Karina was flying in from Hong Kong, so she had to quarantine for 2 weeks before we could start to shoot. So I think she had only 4 or 5 days out of quarantine to do the fitting and everything in one go, and we had to shoot. So that was really hard for me, but she was very, very professional, and I think once I survived that, I learned that you actually don't need that many days. It could be done.
And you just mentioned Karina, and this is, of course, a very actor-driven film. Could you maybe both talk a little bit first about the casting, and then your approach to working with this incredible ensemble of actors that you brought to this project?
Casting was, we knew that the Lily character was the one that would lead the entire film. So this was the first one that Clifford and I talked about the most. And Clifford was very familiar with Karina's filmography. And because Karina was trilingual, she could speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and English really fluently, and she grew up between Canada, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. So it inherently that Clifford knew that she would be the perfect one for this role. So we really catered and adapted that screenplay for her, and it was because of our EP Tom did the script reach her, and she said yes. That was a big moment for us.
Yeah, we kind of had there was an order to things. First, yeah, Karena Lam, just in terms of, because we knew that the role was quite heavy, and we needed somebody that could fit. Karena Lam had never played a mother before, but we thought that since she has 2 daughters, her daughters are around similar age to what you guys see here, we thought maybe she would be willing to do it for the first time. She's, on a producing level, just thinking about marketing before we even make the movie. She is a star. She's a wonderful actress. She's won so many awards to, prove it as well, and it just really made sense. Once we had her in mind, the kids were tough because we always wanted kids that were not actors. We started looking at some of the professional actors in Taiwan, or just Mandarin-speaking places. But yeah, it's quite different, the aura of it. Like, they're very aware of the camera. We didn't want that. So it was a long casting process finding the 2 kids. Again, it's during COVID, so we can't really even go to school. So when we were doing the casting notices, a lot of it was online, looking at their videos that they send. And the kids are very cute. They've never done it before. They kind of like, usually there's 2 characters, and some of the actors, they would just read a line and then wait, just have this long gap, just kind of wait for the other person to speak when nobody's actually speaking. So it's kind of, it's very abstract when you watch a lot of this stuff. But basically, once we got the girl that plays Feng, Caitlin Fang, that took almost half a year in itself. We had to be quite patient with that. I think we just had to believe that we would find her. And once we did, we can think about, well, what would the dad look like? What would the sister look like? And that's when we found everybody.
Yeah, we found the younger sister 4 weeks before the shoot. We were like praying every single day she would show up.
And this, we just talked about this being a very character-driven film. It's a smaller film. And these types of films are increasingly more challenging to get made these days. The era of Avengers and, you know, big budget event films, right? What kind of challenges did you face from a production perspective in terms of getting funding, getting this film made, bringing all the pieces together, not only during COVID, but also during this climate where smaller, more personal films like this just are facing a lot more challenges?
It's tough. I think with Netflix and all the streamers, it's a little bit different now. It could be easier, it could be tougher. I think I was just always quite adamant that I never wanted to parade American Girl around as like an art film. I just thought that, well, when I read the first draft of the script, and the one that you guys saw is the 18th draft, by the way. But even when I saw the first draft, I thought, well, I think people can relate to this. Just I'm a son and I'm an only child, but me and my mom had very similar kind of interactions. And I think when looking for money or just looking for a crew, and again, we're first-time directors, producers. We're all quite young. Our whole crew is like on average maybe 32 years old. So it can take a while to prove to everybody. But I think we just have to. Showing the short film helped, but I think we just really had to kind of tell people that, yeah, we do have a star, and we do think that like Mommy Loves You, that was a lot of that stuff. We hope that people would be moved by it. Like our goal is to have as many people watch it as possible. It's not a movie. So, like some people make movies for themselves or for their parents, or we wanted like mass audiences to see it. I think with pitch decks and a lot of these things, people get it. But it's a long process. Again, SARS was a big thing that people didn't get. I think everybody was like, nobody remembers SARS, what it's working. So when COVID came, we were kind of like, okay, time to go.
One of the biggest things that Clifford told us, like, never tell anybody we're making an art house film. It is not an art house film. It is a commercial film. And
another thing that's unique about the film is in the history of Chinese language cinema and Taiwanese cinema, there's a lot of films about kind of first generation immigrant experience. Think of Ang Lee's first couple of films, Pushing Hands and The Wedding Banquet, I think, are great examples of that. But there's very few films that explore the other direction. That is, going back from being in an international location and that kind of reverse culture shock in a way. And I wonder if you could both talk about picking that angle and that entry point, which really is quite unique. I don't think there are many films that really explore that notion of identity.
yeah, I think it was one of the major challenges when we were writing this. Is like, how do we make people who do not have this kind of experience relate? How do we, because it could have been, we could have lost both sides of the audience. So, but I think that reverse culture shock really shaped who I am today, and a lot of, like, even Clifford is a third culture kid growing up. So it took a lot of extensive conversations with people who have similar background, and we just felt like, in the cinema world, we don't talk enough. We can't avoid it just because it's hard to speak of that experience.
Yeah, it's a very specific crowd because we're not exactly like American-born Chinese, but when we're in Taiwan, certainly I get called a foreigner all the time. So you're kind of a weird mix. You spend half the time in America, half the time in Taiwan. I think the crew were basically, we all had a similar kind of upbringing, so we all understood it. I think that was really important that everybody was on the same page here. But once we got that down, we try not to pay too much attention to it. I think we just paid attention to that it was a mother-daughter story, family story, but I knew that this part of it was it's in the root of the script. Like, it's in Fiona's upbringing, like all the dialogue that you see, the entire the school experience. This is a very specific third culture experience. So also, I just knew it was going to be.
Yeah. Also, we were very, very well aware of the Taiwanese cinema that came before us, like all Ang Lee's film, Edward Yang's film, even Hou Xiaoxian's film, touch upon how the American dream. I think for them at their period, I wanted to continue this perspective of the American dream in the early 2000s, how it changes.
Yeah, because you have a lot of films that's about like going from Taiwan to America or from America back, kind of like going there and then come back. I think we couldn't find too many examples, and we just thought we were kind of unique within that spectrum.
Yeah, and I think my parents definitely had an American dream, and they made it very clear that it was their dream. But so when we went back, when my mother was diagnosed with cancer, I think I had to ask myself, so did we fail? Like, is this a failure? Is this why we're just, you can't avoid that sense of failure because when, you didn't, so I think that's what I was trying to explore in American Girl as well as the fear of death, the sense of failure, how do you keep going?
Thank you. So I promised I wanted to get the audience involved, and I want to do something a little bit, maybe it's a little rude, but I just learned from you that the production designer is here. Could I put you on the spot and maybe ask you to share your thoughts about the production design of the film? In terms of, it's kind of strange in that it's not a costume drama, right? It's something that's set 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So there are certain objects, props, pieces of furniture that are still in common use today.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of things that have changed and subtle things, right? And so maybe we can get you to talk a little bit about the production design.
Yeah, production design is such a big part. I'll stand here. Yeah, Yushen and I are high school classmates. Yeah, and she was a big part of the short film before this, and we decided to work, and she flew back to Taiwan for this movie.
Okay, why don't you take my seat as the moderator? I'm least important.
Thank you. I am actually very emotional because I cry a lot during the screening. Yeah, it's my first. Oh my God! It's my first time seeing the film on the big screen, so it's really powerful. So yeah, and oh my God.
Okay, I'll speak for her while she gathers her emotions. So when you see there the home of their home, actually Yushen built it from the ground up. It was almost completely white and bare, and Yushen put the floors in, put the wallpaper, and she's so good at making it look like a production design that her production design is often overlooked. And I understand that a lot of like realism film, that's why it doesn't feel, the production design isn't as highlighted because it just kind of blends in, but she's so generous with that, and she's so willing to let everything be invisible and tell the story.
Thank you. So yeah, I think this film is really special, also in the sense that I get to tell also like our story, like it's like our generation and how we look back to our childhood and how I get to bring my own perspective and like life experience into the film. So that's really special, and just want to shout out like yes, like both of us, we both have sisters, and like the family dynamic is quite similar. So actually a lot of like visual production design, like furnitures and dressing, painting, all the toys are from both of our house. We basically just like bring all of our childhood, steal all my sister's dolls, antique. Yeah, so it's really special, and I'm very grateful to be part of this project.
All the artwork you see in the girls' room are Yushen and her sister's artworks when they were kids.
Yeah, I basically steal all my sister's summer vacation homework. Just borrow to be on set. So yeah.
And I just want to add too that it was quite tough to get a lot of these period specific, I guess furnitures and everything, because 2003 is like, it's not like the 70s or 80s, like it's the 80s, right? But 2003 is quite different from 2022. So a lot of the, just to add a little bit, in the bookstore scene, like all the books that you see, they're all completely period correct. And there's a lot of these cards. This is kind of like Asian nuance. But in the 80s, 90s, people really like to collect, they're like baseball cards, but cards for celebrities. It's like Tony Leung and 30 different denim jackets. Like it's, you collect them, you want them in like different makeup and that kind of thing. And we laid a lot of those like pop star cards that, yeah, they took quite a lot of effort to find. You have to go, because they stopped spelling for decades. So you have to like call a bunch of people and locate all the fans, like that hardcore fans that are in like the far side of Taiwan that like this 20-year-old like yellow tinted cards from 25 years ago.
That's part of the joy. To dig through like the, yeah.
And if you look closely, because the film is on Netflix, if anybody wants to recommend it to family and friends and want to watch it again, you can see how Yuxuan designed the home in a way that gradually you see more lace in the house. Like you see the feminine touch. You see how the mom tries to make it a home. So it was very, very detailed because we tried to shoot it as much in order as possible, but sometimes, of course, we had to do it out of sequence. And it was very specific at what time, at what date, what was placed. So.
Yeah, just also want to share, there's, in production design side, there's like 6 different stages of the home, like when the family just come back, it's more bare, it's more like the dad's space, and then gradually we want to show the audience that it's more lived in, and then how people and family members transform the space. So yeah, happy to like bring that detail and layers to the audience.
Thank you so much, and apologies for putting you on the spot, but thank you for maybe I want the audience, please start thinking of questions. We're going to hand it out to you to have your questions in a moment, but as we're transitioning, could each of you quickly tell me what was the greatest single learning experience over the course of making this film? And then we'll move to the audience.
That if you want to be a director, you have to be ready to watch your film 100 times head to toe in post. It was.
For me, I think it's, I went to film school, so I learned a lot in film school, but I think nothing beats just going through it yourself, like top to bottom. That's really how you learn how to do the whole thing. I think there's no better way to do it.
And for me, I just very cherish all the moments that I get to work with collaborator and friends, and then telling the story of Taiwan, and because it's not it doesn't happen very often as I'm working in the U.S. So I really cherish every moment of it.
Thank you. So it's your turn, so please raise your hand if you have a question. I think we have someone with a microphone that will be bringing them out. And if it's for a specific member of our panel, please identify who you would like to answer.
Testing. Hello everyone, my name is Alan Ford. I'm a film producer as well. So congratulations Fiona and Clifford and the team for making this wonderful moving films. Thank you for sharing the culture of Taiwan and between American culture as well. In terms of Christians and Buddhism, I love that part as well. And also, whipping the kids in the school, where their parents say, go ahead and whip them. But one part which I didn't get is, why do they have to cut all the girls' hair short? What is the purpose of that?
Well, back in the days, they believed that you could concentrate on your studies, and that's the days where they really believed in segregating boys and girls. And the boys have to cut. They have to keep it at a certain length as well.
You cannot have long
Yeah. They want you to prevent you from being vain, I think. That's the idea. But it is no longer like that reinforced now.
Yeah, extra tidbit too. So, Caitlin Fang, who plays Finn, she went to an international school, so she never went through this, and she's too young to go through it. But we actually had shot her getting her hair cut. We cut it. She was phenomenal in that scene, but for editing purposes, we cut it. But she cried so naturally, and I remember asking her, wow, this is your first crying scene, how did you go through it? And she just said, she loved her hair. She was getting her haircut. So when she saw her hair was gone, she was so sad. She was sad for the entire duration of the movie, just carrying that haircut.
So we're gonna go back here.
Hi, I'm Jason Lee. Thank you very much for sharing us with this very intimate film. So I think the character Caitlin, that's a very successful cast, and I wonder, and this is her first time debut, right? And I wonder, like, in the beginning, how did you cast her? What's in her that caught your eyes at the beginning? Thanks.
When we were auditioning, it's really important for us to see how they were in camera. So we would always have a small camera with us, and it was rather have her do the scenes. I was more focused on learning about her and see who she is as a person, and who she is similar to Fen. And I think Caitlin had a very melancholic aura that added to this character, because we had so many girls read the lines, and I was like, "Ow, that's so mean." I was so mean as a kid, but when Caitlin reads it, it feels very sympathetic. So for us, she really stood out in that way.
Yeah, I think during our audition.
And she was also one of the very few girls who were willing to cut their hair. It's true. It's true. A lot of girls got to the final stage, and they're like, no. And I told the casting director, I just ask them if they want to cut their hair. If they don't want to cut their hair, we don't even.
Yeah, we lost like 70. We lost 70% of our people. But I think with casting, the auditions were less about like reading the sides. It was more about getting to know them and seeing, what traits they possess that's like similar to Fen, whereas we could find like Fen in her or her in Fen. In Caitlin's case, like Fiona was saying, yeah, a lot of, not to throw other candidates under the bus, but sometimes you look at people come in and you're like, wow, this character is quite like if I was in school and I met that girl, I would probably get bullied by her or something. But yeah, Caitlin made us understand her. Like, you felt like she was saying these things because she had a lot of turmoil. She was going through a lot. But she was a good person at heart. I think that trait was like, she possessed it just from the very first audition. And we had done like auditions where it was her herself. We had done ones where we pair her up with different candidates for the friend character and see like who has the best chemistry. Yeah, it was quite interesting, and then Fiona did quite an interesting thing, like a really good thing where she brought Caitlin and Audrey, our younger actress, to set and kind of shot the movie with a camera, like with a phone camera first, so they really kind of got familiar with just acting on camera too.
And her braces were her real braces. So I really, really love that about her too.
Maybe that in the back. Back here.
I was so happy she had traditional braces instead of Invisalign. It was like, good thing.
Thank you so much. It's a really powerful film. I love how you did everything. My question is, how many drafts did you do, and also was it very healing for you to go back in your own history and find a kind of cathartic way of writing your thoughts and on the script? And I'll tell all my friends I'm going to watch it again Netflix. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very, very healing for me, I think. It required, because I think the misconception is that when you write a story of your own family or your story that you don't really have to do any field research. But the truth is I had to have a lot of conversations with my parents, and they had to be very, one or two questions at breakfast, one or two questions at dinner. You can't really sit them down because they're not going to tell you the truth, right? You got to try every single time. But I think by the time we shot the film, it was 15th draft. And I'm a person that loves rewriting, so I think the
the production side were like, is this final? Because we're going to print it, we're going to print it for 50 people, and we just want to make sure it's final. And then, yeah, but I think at the end, and I was even rewriting it as we were shooting it, just to not to change the story, but to really capture what we're seeing and to better adapt to our actor's strength. So I think by the time we finished, it was 18th draft. Yeah. But I had a co-writer we kind of ping-pong back and forth, and that was very, very helpful.
Thank you. And I got the cue that we're running out of time, so maybe we could have a lightning round and get 2 or 3 questions and then have a response. So whoever has the microphone, let's get maybe 2 or 3 quick questions and then get a final round of responses.
I really like this movie, and how did you select the actress?
Oh, thank you. Do you want to be an actress too? Yes. Well, we would do interviews, and I would understand their hobby, and we would put a camera, and we would look at, how they responded to camera, and we would have chemistry reads to have them read with other characters, just to make sure that they look like they're part of the movie in the particular story. Yeah. Well, I hope you get to meet a story that's for you one day.
One or 2 others?
Oh, yeah. I would also improvise, ask them to, what if you didn't do your homework? I'm the teacher, and you should never admit you didn't do your homework and see how they behave. The liars are the best ones. The liars are the best actors.
Hey, my name is Cindy, and I'm also a young director. And we all talk about how you bring this film to the world. And then I also wanted to know about did you get any inspiration with your cast while you shooting or in your production? So I want to know about maybe what kind of thing they inspire you while you guys shooting.
Well, they inspire me all the time. I think sometimes I like to do a lot of rehearsals, and I think that's when they inspire me the most, because there's no right and wrong. We're not under time pressure. So I never tell them what to do first. I always ask them to do it first. For example, in the Swanson scene where they're eating ice cream, mostly that is improvised, because happiness is very hard to write, and have them laugh on cue. And where the hair dyeing scene with the dad coming home, a lot of those lines were improvised as well. What else? A lot of the sister stuff, how they interacted, how they looked, or even, for example, the scene where the younger sister wakes up and says, "I think I have cancer." When we were rehearsing, so I just told Audrey to sit next to Caitlin, and Caitlin had an empty seat next to her, right? So what an adult would do would walk across and sit down. But Audrey just sat on the side and slid her sister across, and I was like, that's exactly what my sister would do. And then we kept that, and I would always ask them, I was like, okay, it's been a very long time since I was 13. So, you as a 13-year-old, do you feel like you would, I asked them to change dialogue all the time.
And I just want to add on, I feel like Fiona is really good with children too, children directing, that I remember at the very beginning of the rehearsals, and she will ask, oh, can I borrow, do you have any games? Just bring some toys and puzzles or any drawing, and really break the ice with the children. So that's really talented. I asked Yushen to prepare so many hand props. So I find that when we're rehearsing, it's really helpful when we're on location and we have the hand props ready to just see what they connect with the most.
Thank you. I would love to keep this conversation going, and I'm sure you would too, but there is a reception where I think we can maybe continue conversation informally. But please join me in congratulating this incredible team of filmmakers.